everybody. It's 8:02. We're right on time tonight. You got Tom and Brian here coming to talk to you about the update. You guys have to notice, as typical fashion, I have a T-shirt on. Brian does not have a tie or a jacket on this evening, so he's extremely casual. He's got a collared shirt on, though.
Very casual tonight.
Yeah. He's really wanting my Barbie shirt, though, but I told him he can't have it.
I am very jealous of the Barbie shirt. I need it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, thanks for joining us, you guys. We got a couple things. We won't be long. We got our answer from the judge that I don't think surprised Brian or I on the gun case, where he denied our motion to reconsider, still suggesting, or his position is that the Calkins decision is binding on our case, and so it can't continue. I don't know a lawyer that agrees with the judge, to be honest with you. It doesn't make any sense. And I'll leave it at that. So I could opine more on what I think about that decision, but there's no need to do that. So this, within an hour of him entering his order denying our motion to reconsider, we filed our notice of appeal with the 5th Appellate District. So it's already, the process has started. We didn't waste any time. And so we will continue in the 5th Appellate Court saying that was wrongfully decided and needs to send it back. But that's going to take a while, you guys. I mean, we could be in the 5th Appellate Court for, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months. I mean, there's no telling that how fast or slow that process could take. That's just how it is. Okay. So that's what's going on in our case. But again, just to be clear, the judge again said, after we argued there for an hour and a half, that Calkins wasn't controlling. The judge said that the Calkins decision is controlling. So thanks, Dan. You screwed us again. Brian, you anything else to add with that?
No, I think you nailed it pretty clearly. It went down. So, but we're moving to the appellate court, and we're going to keep it going.
So that's that, and then we got a couple other things going. We filed a new case last week, and we've got another one, that we're working on. And raising some legal arguments that we've known about for a little bit, but there has to be timing in the way that you plan everything. Okay. So this argument we've made is that if you guys recall, there's 7 exceptions in the law that if you don't have to follow this law if you're in one of these exempt categories. And as you guys are aware, a lot of them don't make any sense. Really, none of them make any sense. Like retired police officers and mall cops and Department of Corrections officers. I mean, it's absurd. But there's one of them in there. It's actually the first one. It's called a peace officer. It's a peace officer as defined under a particular section of the law. It's 2-13 of the Criminal Code. And so anyone who under that definition is a peace officer is exempt from the law. I mean, our legislature put it in there. So, okay, it is what it is. It's not ambiguous. It's not, confusing. It's crystal clear. If you are a peace officer, you are exempt from the law. So the question then becomes, who is a peace officer? Well, guess what? There's a definition in the law of what constitutes a peace officer. Look at Brian's laughing already. Because it's you guys, when we're done explaining this to you, you're going to go, Tom, well, why would they do that? And the answer is quite clearly is that your legislature is a bunch of damn idiots. They're not that bright, and at the end of the day, go ahead.
Well, worse, they pass laws and they obviously don't read them. They don't read them.
No!
They don't know what's in them. They don't have any idea. They're just passing law after law after law, not reading them, not looking at them. I don't think they know what they pass half the time. So,
well, remember, wasn't it Pelosi that said when they passed the Obamacare bill that they said they had to pass it first before they could see what's in it? Yeah. I mean, and we can sit here and pick on the legislature all we want, Brian, but you know what? At the end of the day, it's the citizens' damn fault because collectively, everybody, we elected these goobers, right? Yeah. And so if you don't like it, unelect them. But yeah, they have no idea what that law said when they passed it. They didn't read it. They didn't go through and analyze it or anything like that. So, a peace officer is a defined term under the law. And a peace officer, there's 2 different ways you can be a peace officer in Illinois. One is you're like a cop. You're a law enforcement officer, okay? You have the power to arrest people, investigate, things like that. And then it says under the second part of it, anybody who by statute, who by another law, has been given powers similar to a police officer. So if you've been given powers similar to a police officer by statute, you're a peace officer. Well, guess who's been given powers similar to a police officer by statute? Citizens under the private arrest. Yeah, everybody. Under the citizens private arrest statute, you've been given the powers similar to a police officer. And there's case law in Illinois all over the place that says that a citizen under the private citizens arrest statute and a cop are fundamentally identical. Fundamentally identical. And so we've been laughing about that and going, they don't even know what the hell they were doing. They put in here an exception that accepts out a law-abiding citizen. You have to have a FOID card, obviously, because you can't buy a weapon without one for now. That's the way it is. But yeah, assuming that you're a law-abiding, FOID-carrying person, you're exempt because you're a peace officer by definition. It's got nothing to do with equal protection or anything like that, right? And they're over there answering, oh, are we good to go? And blah, blah, blah. I mean, again, I'm not telling you to go out and do anything. I'm just telling you the argument we're making in court. You want to go buy a gun? Somebody will sell you a gun. You do what you want. I'm not telling you to do that. Brian's not telling you to do that. So, you guys got to be careful with when you're listening to conversation going, oh, we're all good. Well, if you think you are, then go buy one and raise that defense if you get in trouble. So all I'm telling you is that citizens are peace officers under the law of the state of Illinois, and a peace officer is exempt under subpart 1, I think it is, E1, under this new statute. So, yeah, I mean, it's funny. And so we filed the case. We have a hearing on February 29th. So, 4 weeks from now, give or take, we have a hearing in Effingham County. And I think at 1 o'clock on the 29th, and if anybody wants to come, again, you're free to show up. And because, again, the argument that we're making, we have one citizen and we have one gun shop that are making this argument, but we're not asking for injunctions or anything like that, like we did in the case, again, that has all of you in it, where you got an injunction for months where you could buy the weapons while the case was pending. We didn't file that in this case. This is just a straightforward declaratory judgment, find that this citizen is a peace officer. And if we win that argument, then everybody can look at that and go, okay, I guess I'm the same thing too, right? No, Joe, the hearing's not in front of the same judge that is on our case. It's a different judge, okay? And if it would have been that judge, we would have made certain decisions. But no, the Judge Jarman, Doug Jarman, who's on our case that denied our motion to reconsider, is not hearing this new case, Joe. And so that's what we're doing. That's on February 29th. We're going to have that hearing on that case. And it's pretty straightforward, you guys. I mean, you agree, Brian? It's not very complicated.
No, it's very straightforward. And it's just another example of just how poorly this was written when you rush it through without reading it 3 times and you just go through it in 48 hours. Another typical example of what happens because they just cited to the other statute and said, well, that's the definition of a peace officer instead of putting a new one in. Now, I mean, legally, we're right. And there's just I don't think there's even any discussion about it, really. I mean, this should be a very short hearing. Now, obviously, with the state involved, they'll turn it into something else and come up with fanciful definitions and all sorts of claims. But it's about as straightforward it's as straightforward a legal argument as I've seen.
Yeah, I got you. I'm not going to say the person's name over there, Brian, but I'm reading the comments over there, and somebody's talking about, you guys are reaching. The Democrats will just keep delaying until we go away. And with all due respect to the person that made that comment, then just freaking go away and cry, right? I mean, if that's how you want to do it, just cry and complain and say, oh, we can't do anything, then just go freaking do that. That's fine. You know what? If you fight and you lose, you keep on fighting and you fight till you're dead. And we're a long way from dead. So if you want to cry about it, again, I'm not going to say the person's name over there in the comments today. If you want to cry about it, then just go away, right? I don't care. I
mean, look, I'm here in Illinois and I'm not leaving, and I'm going to fight until I can't fight it. I don't know how else to do it, and I think what's happened is all this fighting has at least we're shining a light on what they're doing up there in Springfield because they like to do it in darkness. They like nobody to know what's happening. And finally, it's getting out there, that just you pick the topic. it's starting to get out there, and the more we talk about it, people are going to deal with it. And eventually, the hope is we'll vote them all out and start over and get to do something different. So that's the hope.
Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't be fighting about the things we're fighting about right now. I mean, let's assume people listening to this are Republicans and they're pro Second Amendment, et cetera, and they lean right in their political. You know what? We wouldn't be having these conversations. And I'm saying, when I say you guys, all of you here that are listening tonight go, well, it's not me, Tom. I'm saying you guys. I'm referring collectively. If you all just freaking voted, we had like what, less than 30% turnout in the last election for Republicans statewide. So don't bitch to us because, you know, you think it's useless. Go get people to think like you to vote. And if we can get 50, 60, 70% of people that think like us to vote, we would win and we wouldn't be a Democratic state. It's really that simple. That's kind of what I say when I go across the state and give presentations and speeches going, these problems get solved real easy if people just quit bitching and actually do something. You know, Brian, is one of the things that I say on my soapbox a little bit. I ask people when I go and talk, tell me how many senators there are in the state of Illinois. How many state senators do we have? People have no freaking idea. I've had one person in 3 years answer that question. They're not involved in the political process at all. They don't participate. They don't have their families help participate. They don't get their friends to participate. And then when things go wrong, they all want to look around going, why, what happened, right? It's just, they don't participate. So, and I'm not suggesting the people on this call are not that, but collectively, people don't participate in the government process, and that's what causes these problems. So let's get back to the gun case. Let me see here. Yeah, because we don't, I mean, as far as the gun stuff goes, I mean, that's really what we got. We got a new case coming, another one that we haven't filed yet, you guys. It's going to be another equal protection case. And I'm not going to say much more about it than that, but we're going to use the Calkins case against the state. You know, it's a shitty case. It's a horrible decision. Dan screwed us all over big time. We shouldn't have to be having this conversation, but we're going to try to make the best of it. And we'll talk about that more later.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jeff, you've asked that question a couple of times. Can anything be done about elected officials who took an oath to protect the Constitution of the United States? You just said a mouthful, brother, because the Constitution of the United States says what people say it says. It's not like, I'm assuming what you're suggesting, Jeff, is that they're violating the Constitution and they ought to be held accountable. Well, there are people who would disagree with you that say they're not violating the Constitution, right? So that, you know, that's really that. I hate to say it, it's that simple. Is that I'm not saying I disagree with you. I'm just saying the conversation is not that black and white. That merely because you disagree with their decisions, that it's automatically a violation and they should somehow or another be held accountable. That's where debate comes into it.
Oh yeah.
Brian, wear the blue suit, but do not do that man bun ever.
Never. You're safe there. There'll be no man bun. Blue suit, yes.
Don't pick on my boy Darren Kincaid. Oh, come on, man. Somebody said Dan ruined his own career. Dan's retired and he's not running for office again. So what's he going to ruin any more than he already ruined it for us?
He did it.
He did it. So that's it with the gun stuff, you guys. Our appeal's up and it's going to take time. So if you don't hear from me for a month or two, don't think nothing's going on. Those appeals take a long time. It's a pain in the ass. The new case, it's February 29th. And if you guys want to show up and listen to that hearing, you're free to do so. And we're going to argue that, you know, every law-abiding gun-owning citizen under the express provisions of the statute are exempt because you're all peace officers under the law. I mean, it's crystal clear, and we'll see what they want to do. And I think it'll be funny. So, Mr. Kerr said, I lost it. What the hell did he say?
You'll have to scroll down.
Yeah, that fucker's moving so fast. Sorry, guys. I just said a cuss word. Tom, he says, thanks, Tom. He says, we're in communication with like-minded people who are not even registered to vote. You know, Mr. Kerr, I've been talking about that since the last election, going, if we just registered the people that aren't registered to vote that think like us more than likely and got the people to vote that think like us, Illinois wouldn't be Democratic. It wouldn't be controlled by the blue. It'd be red. But we don't vote. Republicans are, and they say, oh, we can't vote. Chicago cheats. They don't need to frickin' cheat as much as they might want to because we don't vote. So it's really about us getting out and voting. So, anything you can do to get voter turnout to increase, this would be a red state. The only reason we're not a red state is because people don't vote. It's really that simple.
Well, part of that, Chicago's done a real good job of saying we have all the votes, we have all the people, there's nothing you can do, don't vote. And that's why if you notice downstate, they'll regularly not challenge your local state rep. They won't challenge your local state senator. The Democrats won't because they want to keep our turnout pushed down for the statewide elections, for the governor's race, for the attorney general, for the U.S. Senate. They want to keep our numbers down and just keep telling us, oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And when it does, if we vote, I had a guy tell me the other day, if we vote about 75 or 80% of the Republicans who are registered, we can win statewide elections. The votes are there. We just got to turn them out. So it is.
And the votes are there. Somebody made a good point over there talking about Cook County and how there's a disproportionate population in Cook County. That's true, but we've done the math. And if you take the other 101 counties and we maximize our performance in those 101 counties, we can overcome Cook County, you guys. We can. We can't do it with a 30% voter turnout in our other 101 counties. We freaking can't do it. It's just impossible. And so, it's a math game. It's really a math game. And now they've got their early voting and their mail-in voting. You can bitch about that all you want. But until we figure out how to play that game, we're not going to win because we can't get people to get off their butt on November 8th and go vote.
And there was a question, how do we get people out to vote? Go be a precinct committeeman, become a registrar, go register people to vote. You go grab 5 people, get them signed up, get them mail-in voting, whatever you need to do. Drive them to the poll. If everyone does that, if every 5 people took 5 more people, that'll do it. We'll win. We'll win going away. So that's how you do it. But everyone has to do it, and that's the tough part. Up and down the state.
Chris Lewis, you're talking about the letter from the Supreme Court denying the petition for leave to appeal. I don't know if you're talking about the Calkins case or you're talking about our case. But if that's our case, there was something came down on our case about they denied the state's request for leave to appeal in ours because it's kind of moot at this point. There's no need for our case to proceed to the Supreme Court after Judge Darman dismissed it based on the Calkins precedent. So it really rendered that appeal on our case to the Supreme Court moot. So is the state violating? You read that? Is the state violating their own deadline by allowing people to continue to register after the deadline? Nicholas asked that question. Nick, that's a funny ass question. I'll let Brian go first, and then I'll give my 2 cents.
Well, the problem is the law says you had to register by that date, period. And if you didn't, then you committed a Class A misdemeanor. So now the question is, if you register late, did you just confess to not registering by the deadline with which the legislature set out? That's the question.
Legally, yes.
And in that question, if someone were to actually prosecute you for it, which south of I-80, you're going to have a hard time finding someone. But if someone actually did, I don't know that it would be a legal defense to say, well, I just registered late. Well, 1 day is 1 day late,
Or what's your defense? Your defense is, Brian, well, the Illinois State Police said that if we went ahead and registered, it'd be okay. That's really what they're saying, right? Is because if you registered your gun today, what the hell is today? The 28th of January. If you say you registered a gun today, what you just admitted to is that you have possessed that weapon for 3 weeks after the deadline in the statute said you had to register it. So you've admitted that you possessed it as of January 1st without an affidavit. So you've admitted to a crime, technically speaking. Whether you would ever be charged with a crime is a second bigger question. But the Illinois State Police has no ability to say, well, go ahead and register and we won't worry about it. It's the dumbest damn thing in the world. But the reason they're doing that is because they've got, I think they got another 6,000 people to register in January. They had 29,000 at the end of December. So again, another 6,000. But, they're just sitting there just not knowing what to do because nobody's registering their weapons practically speaking, nobody, 35,000 out of 1 to 1.5 million gun owners. So, but yeah, I mean, registering a gun today is technically admitting to a crime, in my professional opinion. And whether you got charged for it or not is a second question.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, are they going to prosecute you for not registering all by itself? Probably not. But let's say,
how are they going to know?
They'll never know. But how that comes into play is, for the sake of argument, you're taking your gun to go shoot it somewhere. It's in the trunk of your car. You get pulled over. Somehow they end up looking in your trunk, or they look in your back seat and they see a long case, and now here we go. And they find you with one. Well, then now that changes the world as to what takes place then. So,
well, if someone has it in their possession in a vehicle or something, and they pull you over and you possess that weapon and then you didn't have it registered, that is the only fact pattern that I see that they're ever going to be able to potentially even try to charge somebody. Because right now, if somebody has one of these weapons and you own it, they don't know if you still possess it or not. In Illinois, you could have sent it to a family member out of state. You could have done anything with that. So I don't see any way they can charge somebody with that, crime, unless they happen to have it in their vehicle and catch them with it, or they go to their house with a warrant to enter the house to arrest somebody and they see it. I mean, the enforcement. I mean, hell, you got Darren Bailey on social media with him sitting in front of him saying, "I got him right here. Come and get me." And they're not doing a damn thing to Darren. And so I'm laughing about that, going, if Darren's that bold, I mean, what the hell are they going to do? I mean, I'm imagining Darren lives in Clay County, I think. I don't think the Clay County State's Attorney is going to charge him with a crime.
No, but in a funny turn of events, he on video has admitted to every single element of the crime. So it wouldn't even be a question if they wanted to move after him. So it's they're not going to do it, but it's
yeah. Well, I guess right now his affirmative defense counselor is, I'm a peace officer, but is defined under the statute, so I'm not breaking the law.
I think he's right. But
I told him I'd represent him for free.
I saw that. I like it.
Yeah.
But it's where will they go with this? That's the real question. So, we'll see which way they decide to go with it. But obviously, no one registered them. Now, someone did ask, do they have access to your purchase records? I mean, they do go to licensed dealers and they do check their records. And I mean, technically, if they had the manpower to go do it, they could go check every, which they do regularly, check every gun to make sure their registrations are all correct and up to date, and all the information's right on there. So they could go and do that. And if they wanted to start compiling a list, I mean, they would know at least at one point in time you owned it. Now, you may have lost it, you may have given it away, or things of that sort. But they'll know you owned one at least at one point. So they can find that out.
Okay. Let me make sure I don't have any questions here.
Oh yeah, there was a state representative, wasn't they, up north, or a state senator? She wanted to have your driver's license taken away if you get caught not registering your weapon or something crazy like that.
Well, no, I think it's a Senate bill that's died in committee. It's not going anywhere, at least at this point. But what it was saying is, if your FOID card is revoked, then your driver's license gets revoked. I mean, that's the dumbest damn thing on the planet. I mean, one's got nothing to do with the other. You could get your FOID card revoked for a lot of reasons, got nothing to do with driving. It's just a way that they're trying to intimidate people to register their weapons, it looks like. So, you see any other questions? I mean, somebody's talking about, judges who violate the Bruin standard and what you can do about that. I mean, yes, you're starting to understand that there's politics in the judiciary as well as there is in the other branches of government. So, to say that somebody violated Bruin because they issued a decision that doesn't conform to Bruin doesn't mean that they've broken a law or done anything unethical or any of that kind of stuff. It just means they've issued an opinion that doesn't fall in line with it. And that's for the Supreme Court of the United States to deal with and to fix it that way. So, every time a judge issues a decision that we don't agree with or we don't think follows precedent, we can't start, trying to say we're going to, what we're going to do, charge them with a crime, tar and feather them. I mean, again, this stuff happens. The things that we're dealing with right now, you guys, happen every day in a courtroom, all the time. Brian and I see it every day. And you're just now seeing a little glimpse of it because you're paying attention to this issue. But if every time a judge issued a decision that doesn't comport with the law, Brian and I we wouldn't know what to do, because it happens to us all the time in our profession, and judges do it. And it's just, it's life. So you just have to deal with it the way you can deal with it. And the system's not perfect. Sometimes you'll go to the appellate court and they'll let it happen too. And then the Supreme Court of Illinois doesn't take the case because they can't take them all. So, I mean, it happens more than you guys would probably like to know.
Somebody suggested you give a free egg roll for everybody who votes.
Now we're talking. No kid. Now we're talking.
Now I'm taking a little different route as it relates to the judges, I guess. So.
Let me see. You see anything else? So now I'm going to come to my last topic. If you guys remember, back during the COVID days, there was a judge named Mike McCoy that issued a ruling that you can see it back here behind me. It's still sitting there. And Mike was one of the very few judges back during the COVID days that had the nerve, the courage, the huevos, put whatever word you want to put on it, to actually do what the law said was obvious. It was crystal clear back then that law to support it, none whatsoever. Getting away with it for a long time until eventually we just kept pushing. And Mike was the one that called it right out the gate on May 20th, 2nd, 2020. And you know what? He was right. And I always admired him because he was a judge on the circuit court that had the courage to come right out the gate early and call it for what it was. It was all a bunch of bullshit. Okay. And then eventually Mike ran for the appellate court, and we in this part of the state elected Mike to the appellate court, which was a very good choice for us. Okay. My point being is that when Mike was running for that position, the association does their evaluation of people judges.
Yeah.
Okay. Good evaluation. Of course, they didn't give Mike a good evaluation because the Illinois State Bar Association are a bunch of lefties. Okay, they're center left to far left, right? They're not people like are listening to this call, not on the Illinois State Bar Association. The Illinois State Bar Association, the Illinois State Bar Association is not going to ever have anything good to say about lawyers like us and like Mike McCoy, because we're not. We're not in that clique, right? They're not. They're the lawyers that sat there and didn't say a damn word when your constitutional rights were getting trampled on down the road. Chuck, the answer is the new case. There's like three of you that said that. I'm talking about something else now. The new case that we just filed has nothing to do with our case, okay? We have a case that's in the appellate court. This other case about peace officer there's one client on that case. If we win that case, a lot of people will benefit from it, okay? We don't have to list all 7,000 people on that case because we're not asking for an injunction to where you can all go buy guns for while the case is pending, okay? So no, there's not. It's a completely separate case. It's completely unrelated to our case, all right? So I'm going to make that clear. That's like the third person that said that. So we've moved on from the gun stuff. So the point I'm making is that the Illinois State Bar Association is a bunch of hacks, in my opinion. And so now our good friend, Mr. Drew, is running for judge. And what district is that?
It's the 2nd Judicial Circuit, Franklin County resident judge, just right.
Franklin County 2nd Judicial Circuit. And guess what? He's running against three people that are lawyers you've never heard of. During COVID, I could count on both of my hands the number of lawyers in this state that were fighting for schools and for children and for parents and for medical professionals, and Brian was one of them. And he was fighting just like I was fighting. And now the Illinois State Bar Association gave him the same type of review they gave Judge McCaney. Because guess what? He's not in their clique, right? He's not in their clique. I don't know those other attorneys. I don't need to know them, because if they were fighting for people back then, I would have known their name, and I don't know their name, so it tells me they weren't fighting for anybody.
No.
I'll go in a courtroom with Brian Drew any day of the week on any case there is and fight with him. So for the Illinois State Bar Association to give some bullshit review, it's just absolutely ridiculous. So if you live in that Franklin County area, it's just Franklin County voting on your race?
Yes, only Franklin County.
Okay. All right. So if you live in Franklin County and you're going to be involved in that judge race, Brian is the only lawyer that I know of from that area that was fighting for people. I just wanted to take 2 minutes here at the end and point that out to you guys. Okay. So watch that race if you're in Franklin County, and whoever those other 3 lawyers are, I never heard of them. So, that's all I got to say about that. So Brian, you got anything before we go?
Nothing. I appreciate that a lot. It means a lot. You and I met on the COVID cases. That's how we got started. And then I called you one day, and I think I was the only person that got as fired up as you did about it. And so by the end of the phone call, we we were together. So I appreciated being here for it. You know what? The thing that gets me is, and I've been catching some heat, especially from a lot of liberal people, because I say, look, as a judge, I am going to enforce the Constitution. I read the Constitution. It's going to be upheld. Your rights are going to be upheld in the courtroom. And I've had a bunch of liberal people say, hey, that's political. Judges can't be political. Judges can't say that sort of thing. You can't say where you stand on an issue. Last time I checked, a judge has to take an oath to a Constitution. How is that political to say, I'm going to uphold the Constitution, I'm going to uphold your rights, because that's the job, that's the obligation. And that's just shocking to me that that's the route people are taking. So I'm sure I'll get turned in and told that he can't say that and he can't do that. I'm not saying how I'll rule. I'm telling you, I'm going to abide by the Constitution. And I can't fathom why every judge doesn't say that when they run for office, but they won't. They will not say it, because
Mike pretty much said it.
No, he did. Yes. He absolutely said it.
Yeah. Kathy, I'm going to answer your question again for you. You may didn't hear us. Our case is not dead. No. The one that 7,000 of you on is not. N-O-T. It's not dead. It's in the appellate court. Okay? It's not dead. The separate case that we just filed on a completely different legal issue to try to attack this gun case is completely unrelated to that your case is not dead. If we win that argument in that other case, it'll benefit all gun owners, okay? Right?
Yep.
And so, again, your case is not dead whatsoever. We're still going to be fighting about it in the appellate court. And at the same time, we're doing other things as well with cases that will benefit everyone too, okay? Hope that answers your question.
Yep.
Okay, I think that's it. We will talk to you guys later. And again, we'll give general updates as things go. But again, as far as our case in the appellate court, that we're going to be fighting about, we're going to go up there and tell them that the Calkins case didn't screw us over and throw our case out completely. Okay, so we'll talk to you guys later. Have a good night.